Hi everyone, it's Sarah with Multifarious Nature again, the owner and creator of everything on multifariousnature.com and etsy.com/multifariousnature. So I have some new items in the shop. If you haven't seen on Facebook, I did post the new items that are in there, and I just wanted to do a quick video so you could see the colors, and maybe it might be different than in the photos. So I'll go with the first one here. This is Witch's Brew. This is a new variegated yard that I created. It's 100% superwash merino fingering weight. If you can see in there, it's a nice, I'd say like a medium gray. It's not super dark. It's nice and light. And you've got some nice purple in there. Purple bits. And then there's also some red speckles throughout. Just touches of red. And that's Witch's Brew. This is different than some of the other skeins that I've created. This is a larger skein. So this is 150 grams. The normal is usually 100 grams. So this is 150. So you get a lot more yarn. And it says about 822 yards. And it's a 6-ply. So that's a lot of yarn twisted together. So it's a really good strength to it. All of the yarn is strong, but that makes it extra durable. So this is just a decent amount, a good quantity. So if you want to do like a sweater or a big shawl, you of course would probably need more than just this one skein, but this would cover quite a bit of your distance in your pattern. So if you want this to be the majority of the color in one of your pieces you're creating, this is a nice quantity. And I don't have many colors in this quantity yet, but this is the first one. So this is Witch's Brew. So the next one is a tonal. Again, I like my tonals. This is Raspberry. This is a 100% Peruvian wool fingering. So it is really squishy and it just bounces right back, nice and fluffy. So for a fingering weight, the other Witch's Brew is also a fingering weight. But if you look at the actual yarn itself, which as we know from the past video, my phone doesn't like to focus, but you could just kind of see this is a much bigger looking strand, and that's because it is Peruvian wool. So it's just a different type of fiber. It's a little more rustic is kind of the term that a lot of people use. So it's a little more toothy. This is great for color work because if you're doing color work, you really want your color work to stay in place, keep its shape, and this would be great for that. It doesn't slip and slide as much because it is more rustic. This is 100 grams like usual, and it's 459 yards, and this is a 4-ply. You can see the majority of it is a very cranberry raspberry color of red, but then there are little spots where some purple, light purples in there, just throughout. So that's raspberry. Next is Ocean's Deep, which if you're a blue lover, ooh, this is a good one. This one is also 100% Peruvian wool. So this is that nice rustic, squishy, toothy wool, not itchy, toothy. So if you're doing color work, it is gonna hold its spot. So this is great for those sweaters or shawls that you're gonna be doing that have a lot of color work, or hats even. This is also 100 grams at that 459 yards. And again, this is that 4-ply because this is that Peruvian wool base. It's a really nice blue. It is a layered blue that I created. It is considered a tonal. It's just has a nice depth to it because I did layer colors to create this. So it is a nice bright blue. It's not exactly navy, but it's not like a baby blue either. This is just a really beautiful tonal blue. So it's Oceans Deep. This next one is called Summer Sunset. So if you like your summer sunsets, especially here in Michigan, oh gosh, they're beautiful. This is a nice, fun, brighter color. I tend to do darker colors, deep jewel tones. It's just kind of what I lean towards mainly anyway. But this is a fun, if you want some pop of color, if you want your base, your main color to be something fun and bright like this, a shawl, that would be really pretty. This is Summer Sunset, so this is a variegated. And if you look at this, the base is a very light yellow, kind of a baby yellow, if you want to call it that. So it's very light. And then you've got some pink in there. It's a very light pink though. This is not like a bright, hot pink. This is very light. Sorry about that. My phone. Anyway, sorry guys, bear with me. There's also some orange in there. So this is a beautiful variegated yarn. Again, with some layers. I mainly do tonals, but I'm messing with some variegation here and I am loving the results. So this is also another different type of base. This is a 50-50 base. So it's 50% superwash merino, 50% silk. This is super soft. Most of the yarns that I use are soft anyway. I'm a rather sensitive skinned individual. So rustic yarns that are super rustic wool, I don't tend to use. It makes me itch, and so I apologize if that's the type of yarn that you like. I probably won't carry it just because that's not what I tend to lean towards myself. So this one is super silky and very, very soft. You can use this in color work, don't get me wrong, you definitely can. However, it is gonna slip and slide, and it's gonna be really beautiful in a shawl. You can also make t-shirts, you know, like little short shirts, tank tops. You can make anything in this, but it's super soft. Oh my gosh, it's so soft. And you can see the sheen in there from the silk. Super shiny. So this is 100 grams at 437 yards, and this I consider one of my more luxurious yarns. It's really, really, really soft. Wonderful yarn. All right, so other exciting things coming up for Multifarious Nature. So my Etsy shop is definitely more items that I have created by hand that are finished objects, like little crocheted critters, things of that nature, maybe some jewelry as well. So that's more my Etsy shop. But if you go on to multifariousnature.com, that is definitely more geared towards yarn and knitting or crochet in the art form itself. So those who want to create items. So something that I am working on now, and also with the hand-dyed yarn, which those are all acid dyes. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I work with acid dye. So they are very color fast. I go through quite a process creating them. I added on the listings as well, but when you do receive them, I do highly recommend, if you are worried about bleeding at all, so especially with darker colors like this that are super rich in depth, there's a lot of color that goes into this yarn. I rinse it quite a bit, but keep in mind, especially with hand-dyed yarn, those who use it a lot probably already know this, but if you're new to hand-dyed yarn, I just want to let you know this. I highly recommend, if you're worried about bleeding at all, to pre-wash your yarn before you use it. Obviously then using your local water supply and a very mild like wool wash soak to wash it just briefly before you use it and let it dry. That way, because water in different areas and regions has a different acidity, it may bleed just lightly because of the acid content in your water. That just sometimes happens, and I just wanted you to be aware of it if you are at all worried about that. I personally am not, because I've worked with hand-dyed yarn a bit, and that's not something I worry about. But if you are someone who worries about it, please do that, and it'll be fine. It'll be okay, and it's completely natural, especially with dark colors, no matter who dyes it. There will be just a hint possibly of bleeding, just because of the nature of the amount of dye that goes into this and your acidity in your water. So just keep that in mind. All right, so as I was saying, sorry about the tangent, there are new items that I'm also going to be creating for multifariousnature.com, and they are stitch markers and progress keepers. Those of you who aren't familiar with progress keepers and stitch markers, they're used for multiple reasons. One, you may just want something fun on your work. That's not usually why most people use it, but that is, if that's what you want, there you go. Also, but it's used usually if you're working in the round to keep track of your row. So when you are going in the circle, you know that that's your start of your round. So that's one way of using them. Another way is keeping track of the right side of your fabric. There's a right side and a wrong side when you knit or crochet. That keeps track of it. The other thing is just a marker of a design section. So if you're doing cabling or lace work, especially if it's lace work that goes down the center of something, for example, I'm going to show you an example. I am working on a shawl. This is my first ever shawl, and I am using some of my yarn in it. But I'm going to go more into detail about those things at a later date when it's completed, because right now it's a work in progress. So this shawl has a section in it in the middle, and gosh, it's not blocked, so this is going to be hard, but this is the center spine, right? And there is a lace detail down the center, right? So that is why I have a stitch marker here. This I did not create. This came with some needles that I have. But this is the marker of that center spine. So that keeps track of it. That is what you can use a stitch marker or a progress keeper for. This is a progress keeper that I created. This is a one of a kind. I am not going to recreate it, so I apologize if you really like it. This is actually a very old bead that was found my parents' place in Illinois. They actually were putting in a new deck, and as they were putting in the deck, they were digging, and in the ground they found some beads, and so this is one of the beads. So I just created my own little stitch marker that I can use, and it has this marble bead on it. So that's one of a kind. Sorry, I'm not going to recreate it, but to give you an idea of what I'm going to be creating, they are going to be little stitch markers that have these little lobster clasps on them. I love lobster clasps. They're really good, heavy duty, and super easy to work with and hook onto your stitch. So that's what I'm going to be creating for a progress keeper, and you can use it as a stitch marker as well, but this is the progress keeper. The stitch markers are going to be a little different, but that is... I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to finish this video because I am struggling so much right now. Oh my goodness. So anyway, thank you all so much for your time. More to come for Multifarious Nature, and I greatly appreciate all that are following me and looking into what I've been up to and sticking with me through all of these years. And bear with me, more will be coming, definitely more yarn. And at the moment I am currently dyeing one color or one skein of yarn per color at the moment. and they are not in all bases. So if there is a base that you see that you really like from the description, maybe the Peruvian wool, the 100% superwash merino, and maybe you like the blend, you want that super silky luxury of that 50-50 superwash merino and silk blend, which I can't blame you, it's amazing. If you love that base, but you see it in a color and you're like, that's just not my color, but I really want this other color in that base, please contact me. There is a contact me spot on multifariousnature.com. You can also do that on my Etsy website as well. And contact me and let me know and say, hey, oh, I love this base, but could you do it in this color? And I would be so happy to work with you and do that, because I do want you all to have the yarn that you'll love as much as I love it. So thank you again. I hope you all are staying healthy and safe, and most of all, happy and creating. Take care. Bye.